Hello. This week we are not going to introduce a lot more economic concepts, but we are going to touch on something which is really important in the economy, the labor market, with two scenarios examples here. Here they are, City Builder Prologue 4 and City Builder Prologue 5. Without further ado, let me jump into Prologue 4. As usual, you can select easy mode or hard mode or just sandbox mode. The amount of points between easy and hard mode are exactly the same. What changes is just the benchmark. If you have any question about any of this, please refer to our first workshops to get all the answers you need. Well, in this level, I control my character again. The story is very nice. I suggest you give it a try. But for now, I'm just going to skip to the interesting part of this level. So as a character here, you are in charge of helping people make their labor decision. At its simplest, a labor decision is just how much labor, how many work hours would a person desire to offer in the labor market. How many hours do we want to work during a day? Here we have our household representative. This household representative is asking to actually build a house for them. That's exactly what we're going to do now. Click on the shop, and first of all, select the plot tab, click on the plot, select, in this case you have only one choice, you can put down a worker household, assign the team, and then place it on the map wherever you want. So you cannot place it on the road, but you can place it anywhere else. Here we have a plot for someone who wants to join your economy. The next step is to actually build a house, which could be fun. So I'm going to do it. Just click on the leisure tab here and then select house styles. And you can just paint. I literally can drag, click with my mouse and then drag to paint the house that I want to do. So I'm going to make a little house, a little special like this. There you have it. And after this, I'm going to have to put the door, because a house without a door is not so good. And see, I can only place door on straight walls. And you can see it because it attaches to it. And if it's not a fully straight wall, it just doesn't give me that option. So I'm going to put the door there in my house. I can also change this at any time by making something like this, for example. And I can even add another door if you want. If you want to change something that you did, like make a modification to your house, you can click on this trash button here, click on it, and then this works like an eraser if you want. I can literally just hold it down and erase part of the house if I want to change something. Very well, this is step number one, make your own house. How do I complete this? I can just deselect. If I'm, for example, using the trash option, like this one, to delete things, I can right click on my mouse to deselect, or I can click again on the things that I'm doing, like the trash can, or even closing the shop, and that deselect the object that I was placing or the action that I was taking. Now we need to decide how many leisure item we want to put in the house. This works very similarly to what we did with the producer only a few weeks ago, where we would place fixed factors of production to determine how much we wanted that farmer to produce. Here, very similarly, you can place down little furniture pieces, and that will determine how much leisure your agent is gonna decide to do during the day. For example, if I put down a little, let's say, a little plant, it's a beautiful little plant, I'm gonna put it here. If I put down a plant here, this will give me, as you can see, 2 leisure units. By putting down that plant, I've basically told this household here, I suggest you spend 2 units of effort that you have during the day just having fun with the flowers. So this is an activity that will produce happiness. Of course, the main decision for a worker is how much time should I spend engaging in leisure activity and how much time should I spend working. In order to make that decision, we go back to the standard approach that we use in economics, marginal decision making. We are going to ask ourselves, should we do 1 extra hour of leisure? And of course that means reducing my work supply by 1 unit. Should I put an extra unit of my time into leisure at that point? And so on and so forth. So just small decisions trying to compare the marginal benefit of an extra unit of leisure versus the marginal cost of doing that. If you click on this icon here, the worker icon, that will help you enormously in making this decision. So I'm gonna just open it. Remember, in previous weeks, we were clicking on the red berry and obtain a production function for it, and we would understand how much would it cost to produce red berries. Similarly, if you click on the worker here, you get information about leisure and work hours. In this case, you can see that most of my day is spent in this case, allocating a lot of units of my time to work. The question is working all day a good idea or not? So I could try, for example, to go from a situation where I am completely working all day, I'm allocating 10 units of effort, all the effort that I have during the day, to work. There is nothing left for leisure. This is a situation where leisure here is not happening at all, so I'm getting 0 happiness from leisure, and I put all my effort units, all my available units of effort that I have during the day onto working. So my work effort is now completely full, 10 units, and you can see it here because red berry indicates that I'm gonna spend my time producing those red berries and then consuming them. The red berries that I can purchase if I spend 10 units of my effort to working is actually 10 red berries. How do we get this number? Well, check it here. If you spend 1 unit of your time, of your effort, and you direct that to work, you can get a wage of $5 per unit of effort that you put into working. Very well. If you work an extra hour, you are gonna get a bump in wage of $5, and with those $5 you can buy exactly 1 red berry in the red berry market. Working 1 extra hour is good for you because it gives you just enough money to purchase a red berry. Very simple example to indicate what is really the objective of work in this simulation. Working is good because it allows you to buy goods that can give you happiness. In fact, if you end up having a wage and you actually work 10 units per day, you are going to be able to purchase 10 red berries, and that will give you a happiness of 9.4 through the consumption of red berries. Eat the red berries, get some happiness for a total of 9.49 per day if you consume 10 red berries. Of course, a different type of choice would be whether to allocate some of this time to leisure instead. If we do it, if I start considering using this information to inform my decision, if I decide to increase my leisure to 1, you can explore what that would do by just clicking the plus button here. So I'm going from 0 to 1 leisure. You're going to see that my happiness has now increased by 1 point. We, for the sake of simplicity, gonna assume that for each unit of leisure that you put during the day, you are gonna get a happiness out of the activity that you're gonna do, which is equal to 1 utils. But of course, if you put more time into leisure, you're gonna have less units of effort to put into work. Notice this, when I go from 0 to 1, my work effort has decreased from 10 units to 9 units. And this means that I can now purchase fewer red berries. I can only purchase 9 of them. My happiness from red berries has gone down, but my happiness from leisure has gone up. This is why we say in economics that leisure and work are substitutes. Because both leisure and work, they kind of aiming at the same thing. We want to make happiness, and leisure can give us that, but consumption of goods can also give us happiness. So in a sense, this happiness that we can get in 2 ways: by relaxing and having leisure time, or working and consuming the goods that we purchase thanks to our work. The choice here is based effectively on what is the thing that gives you the highest level of happiness, and that is the objective of an agent, if that agent has as objective maximizing their happiness. So when I increase leisure from 0 to 1, the marginal benefit of that action is that I am increasing the happiness of leisure by 1. You can pronounce leisure probably in 2 ways, leisure and leisure, and I might end up pronouncing it in both. The choice is yours. There is an increase in the amount of happiness coming from leisure by 1 unit. This is the marginal benefit of that extra 1 unit of leisure. Happiness is going from the perspective of the reduce in consumption of red berries. If you see, the initial happiness was 9.49, and if I do 1 extra leisure activity, the happiness goes down to 9. So the decrease in happiness going from 0 leisure to 1 leisure is 0.49. That decrease is the marginal cost of spending 1 unit of your effort on leisure. There is a strictly positive direct marginal benefit of 1 unit of happiness because you're doing more leisure, but you are also losing 0.49 utils because you are going to have less consumption. You're going to work less, and so you're going to be able to consume less. You should follow the cost-benefit principle. Take the action if the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost, if your objective is in fact to get the highest level of happiness that you can. And you can see that going back to 0 leisure and then moving to 1 leisure, you can see that at the very bottom here, I'm moving from a total happiness of 9.49 to a happiness of 10. This makes sense. My total happiness has increased because the cost-benefit principle indeed suggested me to go from 0 leisure to 1 leisure, because the marginal benefit, 1 unit of happiness or utils, is greater than what I'm losing, the marginal cost, which is only 0.49. This, of course, can change as you allocate more and more leisure hours. The marginal cost is going to be probably increasing because as you reduce the number of red berries that you are consuming during the day, each red berry is getting more and more valuable. And this is a concept we saw before, the idea of decreasing marginal utility. The more you consume red berries, the less you gain in terms of the marginal benefit. You get tired of eating too many red berries, which means that the first red berries are really precious and can give you a lot of happiness. Hence, when you start taking away red berries and instead increase your leisure allocation, you are going to see that each red berry that you are left with is probably going to give you more happiness at the margin. Hence, the total happiness is not necessarily always increasing or decreasing. It may be like an invert U-shaped, where there may be an optimal interior solution when you do a little bit of leisure and a little bit of consumption, and that will really shape the day of your character. This is a UI that is just indicating, just showing you the effect of increasing leisure and decreasing work hours under the assumption, and this is really important, that you can purchase all the red berries that you want. This is not actually taking into consideration the actual amount supplied of red berries. It's assuming that you're going to use your money that you earned from working onto buying some red berries, and you're going to find as many red berries as you want. And also it assumes that there is enough demand for work to fulfill all the work effort that you want to do in a day. This is just a UI that teaches you a little bit about the trade-off between happiness and coming from leisure versus coming from consumption. But you always have to also keep an eye on this UI, which tells you, for example, the actual amount of work which is requested by firms, and this is the amount of work currently. This is the amount of work demanded by firms. So this is firms are demanding 10 units of effort, and this is the current amount of effort that this household is willing to put, which is only 8 hours. Very well. How do you change their allocation of leisure? As I was saying, open the shop just like that, and you can place multiple things inside. And like, for example, by putting this thing down, the carpet down, I've instructed now this household to spend 5 units of effort in leisure, 2 looking after flowers, and 3 meditating on the rug. And you can see that that has changed the supply of work in the economy. We went from 8 to 5 now. If I add even more things, like a stool, for example, I might end up diminishing the supply of labor even further to 4. Every time I create opportunity for leisure in the house, the worker is going to take exactly that chance to leisure, and that will reduce the number of hours they can put into working. Finally, to get this all started, and you may have to scroll down just like I'm doing now, you can put down a dinner table. And once you do that, once you put down the dinner table, this essentially completes the household. And the economy is going to start. You're going to see that your worker is going to go to work, spend the 4 units of effort that you basically instructed them to spend on working, and then they're going to spend some leisure time. In this case, they're just sitting and meditating a little bit. They might, they're meditating again. And we don't show animations for everything. It's a little bit random. This is all the happiness that they got out of leisure. This is the happiness that they're gonna get out of consumption. This indicates, as usual, what all these red berries on top of the consumer agent just indicates what will be the demand for red berries, which is 10, as you can see here, and 10 are also represented. So the worker is gonna go, and it seems like the economy is in a good balance. Supply of red berries is 10, demand is 10, so this will completely fulfill their demand. There you have it. And sorry, actually it does not fully fulfill their demand, because you see there is less effort put into the economy than what would be optimal. In this case, the worker here is only offering 4 hours of work, whereas the producer would like 10. So you always have to keep an eye on the equilibrium in the economy. But this is a situation where I set up this worker to have 5 units of leisure to go every day. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to get happiness from taking leisure activities that I set up for them, and also from consumption. And if I went, I could also put down, for example, a bed, and that would increase even the leisure that they're doing by a certain amount, right? By the amount of leisure units associated with the bed. You can find that information by hovering the bed and just reading. This unit provides 2 units of leisure if used. Very well. And you can see the little balls here, the little yellow orbs. This is a very important decision. This shapes the labor market, because it's important for every household to decide the amount of labor they want to put into an economy. It really affects their well-being, their happiness, or as we say in economics, the utils that they can get. And this has big ramifications for the economy, because a lot of jobs out there require human workers. Hence, understanding the dynamic in which workers are going to be willing to put more or less effort into work or more or less effort into leisure, it's very important both for the microeconomy and the macroeconomy. Of course, if the wage were to change, if the wage would, for example, increase, and that meant that you could buy more red berries with the same amount of work effort, then that of course would change this consumption leisure decision. If wage goes up, then leisure becomes all of a sudden less appealing, and people might substitute away from leisure because leisure is less productive at giving you happiness, because now 1 unit of work can allow you to buy more red berries, and so it's becoming relatively more appealing. It's important to understand how the change in wage could in fact affect your consumption and leisure decision. This is not something that you're going to see in this level because all the prices are fixed, but this is something that we're going to explore in the next one. Jumping right onto City Builder Prologue 5. We are now going to focus on that, consumption leisure decision part 2. Excellent. This level is a little bit different in that we are going to introduce the concept of competition between workers. I'm going to roll my way here. What has changed here is not what the producer is going to do. They still produce red berries. What has changed here is that we have 2 workers. Now, as soon as we move from having 1 worker to 2 workers, we can introduce the idea of competition. Let's look at the market, for example, in this case. We have that workers are willing to supply 3 units of effort. This is due to the fact that they made some decisions regarding their leisure. See that they have their little objects in the house, suggesting that they have decided to spend some active units of effort onto leisure, which reduces the number of unit of works that they are putting on the labor market. Overall, if you sum across these 2 workers, they are offering 3 units of worker effort. Demand, it's actually 5 units. So the demand for workers is 5 units of effort. So we have an excess demand. Firms would like to attract workers. They would like to have 5 units of work to be put to use in their firm, but workers are willing to supply only 3. This is a situation where there is an excess demand. Because of competition, whenever there is an excess demand situation like that, the market tends to react by increasing wages. For example, you can imagine this as a situation where the firm, this entrepreneur here, is saying, wait a moment, I need 5 units of work, but I can only get 3 from the market. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer a higher wage so I can attract more workers. A higher wage will indeed increase the opportunity cost of leisure, because now work is becoming more productive at generating happiness because the wage is higher, so you can get more goods and consume more goods. And on the other hand, also increasing the wage makes it a little bit less likely for the entrepreneur to keep demanding that much labor. It's basically encouraging workers to work more while maybe discouraging entrepreneurs from hiring workers. This will get both these effects will reduce the excess demand by affecting both supply and demand in a direction that reduces the excess. We also have to contend as usual with an excess demand of red berries in the red berry market. You can see that even in this super simple model, there are complications. There is a market that is trying to balance, and every time there is an excess demand, there's going to be a change in price that will tend to increase the market price to cool down demand and increase supply. And it happens in both markets, the labor market and the market for red berries. Fantastic. This is what's going on here. Because the prices are gonna probably change quite a bit now that we have competition and we have the market automatically trying to adjust the price to eliminate any excess supply, we should no longer rely on a fixed number, a fixed decision on leisure and work. We should make sure that the household here, this household, is gonna adapt smartly to eventual change in prices. For example, imagine at the opposite side, there may be an excess supply of workers, for example, which may lead these two workers to start undercutting each other, competing with each other, and trying to get a job for a lower wage. So literally the market wage, this 3.85, could go up or could go down depending on whether there is an excess demand or an excess supply in the market. The way you play this level is to approach this worker here, the one with the question mark, and actually help them make a smart economic decision. Follow these dialogues, try to figure out which solution makes sense to you. This is not really a test. We just want to make sure you understand how this consumer, this household, is gonna dynamically try to get the best amount of happiness possible by smartly changing the way they allocate time to leisure and work as the market price changes. So let's select one of these and let's see how the market is reacting. You can see that the prices have already changed, and they change in a way that in fact is creating a much closer equilibrium in the economy. We have now demand equals supply for the market of red berry, and also a very similar demand and supply for workers. The market is going to keep on trying to adjust to reduce this excess demand or excess supply as much as possible. And this is your quick view into the labor market. The result of this is your usual demand and supply graph that you can understand using the same principles that we used previously. The supply of labor will tend to be an increasing function. In the classic demand and supply graph, the supply increases because as the wage increases, which is the price in the labor market, as the wage increases, workers will find it more valuable to work more because now leisure, the opportunity cost of leisure has become higher. Leisure is less productive at giving happiness if you're getting an ever-increasing salary. That salary can get you consumption goods that make you more happy than leisure. So leisure becomes less useful in terms of producing happiness as the wage increases. Hence, the supply of labor is increasing in wage. You want to supply more and more labor as the price of labor, the wage, goes up. And demand, of course, it's decreasing. For a worker, we have seen before, if the cost of a factor of production becomes higher and higher, the demand for that particular good will become smaller and smaller. So demand is instead decreasing. The highest the price, the smallest the demand. Or if you want to say it the other way, as you decrease the price, decrease the wage, the entrepreneur is gonna attempt to hire more and more people because the labor is cheaper, which means that producing more is becoming more and more appealing to the entrepreneur. This was a quick look at our two new scenarios. They deal with the labor market. The labor market, in many, many, many ways, it's similar to all the other markets that we have seen. The supply of labor comes from the workers. The supply of labor is typically increasing. The higher the wage, the more workers want to work. And the demand for labor is just decreasing as usual because for an entrepreneur, the costlier the workforce is, the less workers they optimally try to hire. If you put together now everything that we have learned so far, the automation of the firm and the automation of the worker households, you should begin to understand a little bit more how the macro economy works, how these prices will continue to adjust whenever there is perfect competition, in a way that tends to reduce the excess demand and excess supply. And as this price changes, you hopefully are now more familiar with the type of response that both firms and households will have to their supply and demand of labor. I wish you all the best. Do not hesitate to get in contact with us. We are always one email away, one comment on the ebook away. Bye-bye, everybody.